Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our study session for the Mesa City Council for Monday, July 8th. Nearly all of our council is in the room, and then we have Councilmember Goforth is with us virtually. Are you there, Alicia?
I am.
Great.
Thank you.
So we are all present and accounted for. First item on our agenda for this meeting is to review the agenda for the meeting that will be immediately following this one upstairs. So, Council, I know we went over this. We didn't meet on Thursday because of the July 4th holiday, but we talked about this the meeting before that. But any additional information or questions regarding tonight's agenda?
Mayor, just real quickly, last time when we were here, there was an item that was, we were going to recommend denial, the approval was denial. That's been removed at their request. They're working through some of the issues, so we want to give them a chance to get those issues resolved. So it's not on this agenda, that big long Mama's Fish and Soul, something, or Soul's Fish and Chicken. It was formerly a 5E, but it's just no longer on the agenda at all.
Okay. Thank you. Was that your question, Julie? Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think because we had just a really short study session and there was a lot in that and we didn't, I don't think a lot of us got an opportunity or maybe we felt a little rushed to have questions answered and have a more robust discussion about Eco Mesa. And so I just don't know if it makes more sense to do that right now or if we should wait until we have the public at City Council. I know there's people who are coming to speak, so I just want to kind of get a feel for when we want to do that.
Are there questions, or is it a?
Yeah, there's a lot of, I'm sorry.
No, I think there's just a lot of misinformation out there. I think there's been some things told through the community that maybe they don't understand, and maybe we didn't have a very good understanding during the
I guess
study
my question
session.
is, would you prefer that presentation now or later?
That's kind of your question.
Yeah,
too,
well, I'm torn on it just
I'm sorry.
because, yeah, no, that's what I'm asking because
Either way, I mean, we can.
I feel like if we do the robust discussion right now and have them come up and ask all the questions, those same people might still not hear the discussion
okay.
to know that there's
So we can
some
give it upstairs. That's what I'm just,
misinformation on it.
that's what I'm asking. We can be
Yeah.
prepared to.
It's also just sometimes easier to have the discussion here though than it is at the formal meeting. So that's what
Well, maybe
not
if there's
sure.
questions specifically the council has or comments, we could deal those here and then let the community or representatives ask those
I
questions.
do expect there's going to be some people, I mean, it's coming off the consent agenda, so we are going to have a discussion upstairs. And like you, I think sometimes it's unfortunate that we have a lot of good discussion down here, and then the folks who come to discuss it upstairs don't
hear that.
So I appreciate the question that maybe we should just defer that until we get upstairs so that we don't have to tell people, oh, we dealt with that downstairs.
I met with Jeff and Jimmy earlier and went through all of my concerns and questions. And they kind of have a list of the things that I felt like were important that get brought up publicly and clarified. Just things that I'm hearing and that I was confused on too. And so I just think it'd be really good for everyone to hear all of those things.
I agree with you. I would say, since we know there's going to be public that wants to talk about this, why don't we wait and have this conversation upstairs? And we'll just say now we're taking 5A off the consent agenda, and we're going to ask for a staff presentation, and we're going to, I know there's going to be blue cards, and why don't we just do it all at one sitting? Does that sound okay?
Yep.
Because, yeah, I spoke with some people today about it as well, and so I know that there's going to be some questions asked.
Well, we could preempt staff and maybe the developer about parking as an issue, the alley, similar things that were done on the prior project, and so they can kind of formulate some responses to that. But yeah, my social media is lit up over this, so we need to respond appropriately to it.
Great. So, Lily, you're probably in the booth back there somewhere, but let's take 5A off the consent agenda, and Jeff McVeigh and whoever else, let's just plan on having a staff presentation on 5A. All right? Thanks. Other questions regarding tonight's agenda? Frankie?
I had a question on 4B, the Westwood Street improvements. Is there any info on timeline? When are these this work going to be conducted?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor Heredia. So yes, the Westwood project includes replacing water and gas mains that have been in since the 50s and they need replacing. And then we have work at 3 separate intersections in that project. We have worked with, there are 3 schools along those streets.
Close, yeah.
Yeah, Westwood, Carson, and Emerson. We have been meeting extensively with the schools to try and accommodate their schedules. So what we've done is we've set up a 14-month construction period to try and help span some of their programs so that we aren't quite right in front of them when we need to do some major improvements. We will go ahead and get started here pretty quick, so if you approve the contract, it's about 30 days to get contracts signed and get things started. We'll mobilize after that. But by setting the schedule for 14 months, we have 2 summers that we kind of span, and we span multiple breaks, holiday breaks, spring breaks, fall breaks. And we'll plan for some of the more extensive work in front of the schools during those timeframes.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you.
Yeah, with school traffic, I could see that's going to be a challenge.
This will be a challenging project, which is why we've spent so much time with the school principals and the facilities staff at all 3 of the schools.
Yeah, it just gets so congested in that area.
It
In the
does.
same area where you're fixing the pipes there.
The pipes
so.
and the intersections, because there's 3
Sure.
intersection improvements.
All right, thank you.
Great. Council, any other questions regarding tonight's agenda? Okay, so the only thing that's off the consent agenda until someone upstairs takes it off from the public will be 5A. Moving on to the agenda for this meeting, item 2B is, item 2A is a presentation and discussion on the proposed audit plan for fiscal year 24-25. Could have our city auditor, Mr. Listano, here. Joe?
Mayor and Council, I'm Joe Listano, the City Auditor, and I'm going to present our proposed audit plan for fiscal year 2025. So first, I'm just going to kind of go over what we have in progress right now, what we plan for fiscal year 2025, our follow-up reviews that are due, and then the other activities that our office performs. So currently, the following audits are in progress. The police department's case management audit, which we're looking at the controls in place to ensure cases are properly assigned, investigated, and disposed of in accordance with the policy, statutes, and any other requirements. Then we have 2 audits with the Department of Innovation and Technology, a cybersecurity and remote access audit. And then we're looking at the controls in place to prevent, deter, or respond to cyber attacks, and to ensure risks related to remote access to the city's network are minimized and connectivity between the network and remote users is secure. We're also working on a citywide take-home vehicles audit, and that we're looking at the controls in place to ensure that employee use of city-owned vehicles is done in accordance with applicable policies, statutes, and requirements. And then also a citywide special pay program audit, and we're looking at the various special pay programs in the city to make sure they're administered and approved in accordance with our policies and any other requirements. We also have a citywide intergovernmental agreements cost recovery audit in progress. We're looking at the controls in place to ensure that costs that are incurred by the city with other governments are recovered by the city, and they're following any agreement outlined in those agreements, along with any other policies and statutes. We're all working on a CFD reimbursement audit, looking at the bonds issued for those community facility districts and ensuring that they're being used to reimburse projects in compliance with the state statute. The ASU building, we're doing a post-construction audit where we're looking at the total costs incurred and funding sources used to ensure that the costs are within the agreements outlined by the city, between the city and ASU. And our last audit in progress is at the Arts and Culture Department, the Mesa Arts Center revenues, looking at the controls in place to ensure that all revenues are accurately calculated, recorded, and collected. And for next year, we have the following audits planned. You'll see that a lot of these are carried over from the prior year. I think last year we bit off a little more than we can chew, so we're focusing on not adding so much, but getting these done this year. So the first audit we have on our plan is the Human Resources Department hiring and recruitment practices. And we're going to determine whether Human Resources hiring and recruiting practices are consistent with industry standards and are sufficient to comply with applicable policies, statutes, and any other requirements. The next is the City Attorney's VOCA program, which is the Victim of Crime Act Crime Victim Assistance Program. And we're looking at the controls in place for that program to ensure it's administered in accordance with applicable policy, statutes, and any other requirements. The next audit is the city clerk's public records requests. And I just add a caveat with this one, it's not really a responsibility of the city clerk, that just kind of everything flows through them. This is sort of a citywide, except for the police department, where we're looking at the public requests to come in and make sure that we're responding to them appropriately with, in compliance with state statutes, policies, and any other requirements. The police department's mental health services team, we're looking at the internal controls of the team and determine whether they are operating effectively in accordance with any policies, statutes, and requirements. Then our water resources department's looking at their annual ordering and reporting process to ensure compliance with applicable policy, statutes, and identify any potential efficiencies that may be, that could be identified as part of that process. And then our new audit for this year is the police department's off-duty employment program. And we're going to evaluate the controls over the program to ensure the internal controls are in place and operating effectively to ensure compliance with the program and any applicable policies. We have the following follow-up reviews due next year: the Department of Innovation and Technology's Software and Application Management Program, the police department's badging and security access, and then the transportation street maintenance program. And then other activities, we do citywide cash handling audits. We go to all the sites that collect cash, and we do cash counts unannounced to ensure that they're following city policies and appropriately reporting the cash that they collect. We did used to do this on an annual basis, but the amount of cash that we collect has dropped. So it seems appropriate that we still do this because cash is always a risky area. But since we collect less, we decided we're going to report on it every 2 years, but we are doing it every year, all throughout the year, but we're just going to report on it every 2 years. We do an annual credit card security review, which is a requirement of the credit card industry. And we do the operational side of it, while the Department of Innovation and Technology handles more of the technical side. But we go to the various sites that collect credit cards, make sure they're maintaining their credit card machines appropriately, conducting training, following any city policies. We also manage the fraud and ethics hotline for the city, so as we get calls or online requests for that, we will investigate those cases. We are available to other departments for consulting, which could be limited financial reviews, looking at internal controls, whatever a department may need that we might be able to help with. And then lastly, unscheduled audits if requested by the city manager or city council. That is our plan for 2025.
Great, thank you, Joe. Questions? Ms. Pillsbury.
Hi, thank you. This is a lot. You guys do so much. I have a few just minor questions. Under current work in progress, the IGA, is that anything we've ever done before, or is that a new one? The cost recovery?
As far as I'm aware, at least in the last 10 years, it's not an audit that we have done. Not that I recall looking at our past audits, so it's definitely new in the last 10 years.
And so in current work in progress, this stuff would be done when?
My goal is to have it done before the end of this calendar year.
Okay.
If, you want to put that, some of that, they're all in various stages. Some of them are pretty much done right now. They're kind of in our reporting process. We're just finishing up, working with the department to finalize the report. Some of them are kind of in the middle where we're doing test work, and then others are sort of in the beginning where we're kind of, getting all of our parameters set and deciding what we're going to test. But my goal for all of those that are in progress would be to have those done by the end of the calendar year.
Okay, and so that does lead to another question. For your audits planned for fiscal year 2025, 5 of the 6 are from previous.
Yeah.
And you said, maybe you bit off more than you could chew. Do you have enough people? Like, is it a matter of not having enough people? Because all of these kind of things are, I think, what really helps the public to feel better with transparency and that the audits are getting done. And so when I hear you say that, you couldn't get to these, it makes me wonder if you maybe need more people.
I guess, having more people would always be great. I do think that we're appropriately staffed. We did have, a person that was out for an extended period of time this year, so that affects us, right?
Okay.
Because we are a small department. But I do think we're appropriately staffed. I just kind of got excited last year because I got a lot of requests, and I usually don't get requests. So I was like, I'm going to add all these, So I think I probably need to learn to manage that a little better.
Well, I think as we realize all the different things that you could look at, that is important to look at, that we also got excited when we started thinking about all the different things that could be looked at as well. So I don't know. Maybe that's something you probably maybe don't want to hear that, but do we need more people to do, since we have all of these requests?
I'd line up 30 department heads that give you the
They all want the
different,
same.
they'd
Well,
all say yes.
I know they're a small department,
Well, I
so,
can name 5 other small
that
departments.
are small too, that,
I think they're appropriate size for our organization. They work a lot remotely where they do a lot of work. I mean, a lot of it ends up that for departments is very helpful because as part of the process, I think, Joe and his folks learned a lot, but then that's good to get kind of outside feedback. And a lot of these you never really see. The Audit and Finance Committee sees them,
Right.
but it's kind of more just a discussion about how can we improve. Department makes the changes and we move on from there.
Okay.
So it's, I think it's a lot, but this is a big organization and there's, from the financial standpoint, what people need to be aware of, we have that happens
Outside
every year.
auditors, too.
Outside auditors
Right,
happens
right.
every year. That's very comprehensive. This is different. This is kind of from the more the business operation side of things.
which is also important.
Yeah, no, I'm just
and
saying there's
costs money
multiple
and-
audits going on in the
Yes,
city.
right, okay. I just think it's something that the public would like more of. On the mental health services team under the police department, is that our crisis intervention teams like Solari? Like, is that what we're auditing or is it something different than that?
So I think they're part of that.
Okay.
And I don't want to, because we're not totally in there yet, so it could kind of adjust. But I think the goal at first is really to look at the policies that are in place at the department level and see if those need to be adjusted. Chief Costa actually, asked me about this last year to do this, and he just felt like they hadn't been looked at in a while, and so he wants to look at that. And I think in the future, I think that's something we would want to consider is looking at the outside group we use, right? If we want to look at how they're performing as well.
Okay, that's helpful. And my last question is just, have we ever done any sort of audit around the Off the Streets program?
We have not.
Okay. Because I would love to add that to the list, maybe for 2026, maybe, or something. I don't know. I mean, I think that might be another one that would be helpful to,
I've talked with some city management in the past, and I think it's very difficult because just homelessness programs in general are so large.
Okay.
And I think we would really need to sort of really get it really scoped down and figure out what we really want to look at. And I think that's the challenge.
and having a nonprofit run it and then auditing that, yeah, I mean, I can see where that would be. Sure. That's complicated, but, okay, I'm done. Thanks.
Thank you. Council, other questions for Mr. Listano?
I'll just mention one. To Ms. Spilsbury's comments, I think one of the difficulties even for auditors is hiring the right auditor to do the jobs. I mean, the auditors are just not dime a dozen, are they?
No, they're not. I wish.
25
wish so.
cents.
But first of all, I appreciate all the hard work your auditing staff does, and because it's not easy. I've been doing this 7 years, and I know that it's doing it timely and appropriately is important for our accountability. And, you know, we have this fiduciary responsibility to know what's going on and get the right changes. So if the city has to pivot one way or the other, we're able to do that. But with that, thank you for doing it.
Thank you.
All right. If there's not anything else, thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Moving on, next item, item 3, is to acknowledge receipt of board and committee minutes. Is there a motion to that effect? Thank you, Mr. Summers and Ms. Spilsbury. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Alicia, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Next item is current events and conferences attended. Council members, who would like to share? Ms. Duff?
Mayor, you and I were at the naturalization ceremony at the 4th of July Arizona celebration of freedom here at the convention center. And we had the honor of seeing, I think it was about 100 people gain their citizenship to the country. And they were from about 36, something like that, 36 different countries. So it's always heartfelt and very patriotic. I think it's the best part of the 4th of July celebration, although the fireworks are pretty phenomenal, the music and everything. But just seeing people gaining their citizenship is just very heartwarming, and I appreciate that opportunity to be part of it. Thank you.
Yes, I agree with everything you said. That's a great, if you haven't done that before, please put that on your agenda for next year. And 4th of July, afterwards, we were together at the fireworks event, and I know a lot of us were there. That was, congratulations again to city staff for putting on a great event. Again, clearly tens of thousands of people were there, and it was a free event, and it was much appreciated. I think the kids especially appreciated the firefighters turning on the fire hoses, and even though it was hot, it seemed like it was tolerated pretty well by the crowd that was there. So congratulations and thank you to the city staff for putting on a great event on the 4th of July. Who else would like to talk about this week? Mr. Freeman.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I'd like to do a shout out to our police department for their fireworks proactive enforcement that they did and implemented. And there was a lot of work for our police department, our street crimes, and others, our community action officers. In fact, as we know, they confiscated 4 semi-truckloads of fireworks and over $1 million. And I think that's huge. And I know for where I was at, there weren't as many illegal fireworks, aerial fireworks, which was nice for once. And I know that there were some arrests and warrants, well, not warrants, but citations issued. So I don't know what the other council districts, you know, happened there, but it was a lot more quieter in my district for once, and I appreciate everything that went on there. But with that, I just want to give a shout out to our police department. Thanks. And also the fire marshal too.
Yeah, phenomenal job by all our public safety. And thank you for all the work you did ahead of time. Usually at the 4th of July, I kind of hesitate to check my email or the day after. And I actually got emails saying, thank you. This is the best 4th of July we've had in many years. Very few illegal fireworks going off, and we're able to sleep, and our pets and all these issues were minimized. So thank you to all our public safety and doing the work in order to create a good 4th of July. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. There's still a lot of aerial fireworks going on in the neighborhood, so I think we need to continue to, as I drove, you know, from one event to another, there was a lot of illegal fireworks going on in our city. So hopefully we can continue to, but I think it is improving. So thank you to everyone that is involved in that. I do need to circle back to item 2B. I noticed that I got some reminders that I skipped over an agenda item, but before we do that, let's finish any other comments about this past week's activities. Anything? All right, if not, let's go back to item 2B, is to take action on appointments to various boards and committees. Is there a motion to that effect? Thank you, Mr. Summers. And a second by Mr. Freeman. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Alicia. Any opposed? Thank you. That passes unanimously. Mr. Brady, what does our schedule of future meetings look like?
Well, it's not much of a schedule. The next council meeting will be Thursday, August 15th, Thursday morning at 7:30. So we'll see you on August 15th.
Great,
at
thank you.
7:30. Thank you.
All right, well, let's enjoy our little bit of a break. I'll note for anyone who's curious, I appreciate an invitation to, I'll be in Washington DC on Friday of this week to participate in a Department of Transportation symposium and participate on a panel of mayors. It's the USDOT Climate Symposium, so appreciate the opportunity to do that at the end of this week. All right, that concludes our agenda for this meeting. If there are a motion to adjourn, thank you, Mr. Summers and Mr. Heredia. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned, and we'll convene in a few minutes upstairs.